Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Big East Rewind. I am your host from Villanova University, Chuck Everson, and my co-host and my partner, as always, the good doctor, Dr. Sonny Sparrow from Syracuse. How are you, Sonny?
Good, Chuck. We got your guys here, man. We
Yeah,
got
it's
the
going to be a fun
guys.
show, and continuing with celebrating the 40th anniversary of our national championship at Villanova in '85. We had our coaches on the coaching staff on, which was pretty interesting. And now we've got two of the three captains, and the high scorer of the game was one of them, and the second high scorer of the game. So, without any further ado, first of all, from Worcester, Mass, number 33, the D Train, Dwayne McClain. Welcome to the show, Dwayne.
Welcome, guys. How's it been going?
Everything's great, man. Everything's great. And of course, the main man, the MVP of the '85 Final Four, big time professional basketball player, 12, 13 years in the NBA, spending most of his time with the Boston Celtics, and now is a scout with the Houston Rockets. Easy Ed Pinckney. How are you, Ed?
Doing well. I'm taking inventory of your room there. I'm gonna come over and take a couple of those.
Yeah, well, I blur you. Whatever you need, Ed, I got you. We have
I see those beautiful
we got
Villanova
seats.
chairs in the
Yeah.
background and some
The
nice
Villanova chairs. We have chairs from every championship, including '85. There's one that's an '85 chair, and then just a straight up Villanova chair. So
very nice.
Very nice. Yeah, if I could straighten it up now, it'd be even better. So there's that. Okay, so let's get this kicked off, guys. So '85, you guys played with and against each other in high school, right? At Five Star Camp. And Dwayne, you actually, I guess Eddie, you did too. You guys played against Patrick in high school. I know there was a game. Tell us about the game that you played against him, Dwayne, in the championship for the States.
Well, yeah, it was the semifinals actually in the States. My junior and senior year, we ran into Cambridge Rings and Latin with Patrick Ewing. Mike Jarvis was coaching that team. Kyle Hobbs, the junior year, was their starting point guard who ended up at UConn.
UConn, yeah.
But Patrick, one report said Patrick didn't play center; he played goalie. I mean, that's how many shots he would block, and just a freak athlete at that size, and by far the best high school player I had ever seen. At that time, at that level. And yeah, we lost to him in the semifinals of the States. But the funny thing about that is, 2 and 3 years before that, we were playing AAU together. So I was very familiar with Patrick's game. He was very familiar with my game. But they just had a squad, a hell of a coach, and it was well earned. But I didn't like taking that L in high school. But lo and behold, 4 years later, I got him back.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. So
Pretty big stage.
Yeah, that was the biggest of stages. So Ed, talk about, I guess you guys were all at Five Star at the same time, right? You, Gary, and Train, right? Talk about that and how you guys got to know each other and how that whole dynamic played out.
So I'm gonna go back even a little bit further. And Dwayne made mention of his AAU run with Patrick. There was a tournament in Boston called the Boston Shootout many years ago.
I remember that.
That was the premier AAU tournament. It would attract teams from all over the country. That's actually where I first saw Patrick. And as a rising sophomore, he won the dunk contest in that tournament. I'll never forget it. I mean, just a lot of as a 7-footer, really fluid and could really jump. That was the first time I saw him. The second time I saw him was at the camp you mentioned at Five Star in Honesdale. And he dominated. Dwayne got a chance to see that every year. But that was my second time seeing him. And he was obviously much more polished as a rising high school senior than he was as a rising sophomore.
Yeah, I mean, you guys show up at Homesdale, did you know that Gary and Dwayne were going, or was it something that you guys ran into each other there? How did that all work out?
Go ahead, Dwayne.
No, we had no idea. We just knew as waiters at Homedale, the guys who couldn't really afford the camps would work as waiters,
Right.
and sometimes they were the better players in the camp. So, you're getting guys from all over the place. Enos Watley from Alabama was there. Chris Mullen was there from St. John's. I mean, just a host of talent as waiters. And then as, you go through the camp and you compete, you see who the guys are, and these guys are staying in your bunk with you. And so that's where the relationships start, just as waiters all working out together. And of course, the waiters have to feed the rest of the camp as well, during mealtime. So it was a camaraderie we more or less developed in the dorm, so to speak, in that setting. And yeah, everybody was rapping with everybody and connecting with everybody, with Gary being a point guard, me being a wing, Ed being a post player,
Yeah.
We got to know each other and it made sense.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Ed.
No, I was about to say, I mean, in this day and age of rankings and players having a ranking before all these camps, that was not the case back then. Obviously, there was no internet. So many of the players didn't really know each other. I mean, again, Dwayne made mention of that. Everyone knew who Patrick Ewing was, obviously.
Yeah.
Names like Milt Wagner, Dwayne mentioned Enos Watley. Those were the names that were mentioned. And, not many of us kind of had the following or reputation until the camp was over. But going into it as a waiter, most people were kind of unheard of, really.
Right.
So wait. All three of you guys were waiters?
Yes. Well, at the time, so Gary McLain was a regular at this basketball camp. He obviously played in Methuen, Mass, and had many more opportunities to go to the camp than I did. It was my first and only time at 5-star. I had never been before this one session at Holmesdale that we're talking about. Gary had been multiple times before and knew Garth really well. And there were times when the group was all together, players that were picked to demonstrate. Gary was typically the guy that always got up there and was demonstrating for the camp. The triple threat position, how to pass, how to work a pick and roll. He was always the guy.
Yeah. He was a great leader on the floor for sure. I remember times during that run where he just tucked the ball under his arm and barked out orders. You can hear him actually over the announcers barking out, you go here, you go there. So that, you're right. That's how he was. So Dwayne, so now you guys are all talking about, hey, listen, I'm going to go here. I want to go there. I know that, we know the story about Ed committing to another school, So you and Gary get together and
tried to anyway.
Tried to, right. And so you and Gary get together, and then what happened from there?
I mean, we all met at the camp, and nobody was committed when we got to the camp. We all
Right.
getting letters from different schools and discussing things like that. Those conversations. But none of us were really committed to go anywhere at that point. But as you exchange numbers and you keep in touch, you whittle down to what guys are doing. And Gary was the first one to commit. He committed to Villanova, and he jumped on the phone with me right away. Because I had it down between Villanova and UVA.
Right.
In the ACC. So once I chose Villanova, it just made sense to talk to Ed, but like Ed said, he was already set to go somewhere else until he was told otherwise by the coach. You need to share that story, Ed.
No, I mean, look, I should have been a Providence Friar. At least I thought I was going to be. I mean, the great Ricky Tucker was my host on my visit, and I had a great time there. But, the coach at the time had other thoughts about the team and what he wanted to do with the rest of his life, and ended up, not coaching the following year. But he's the one he's like, of all your schools you've got listed, you should go to Villanova. It's the best school that you have on your list. And he was 100% correct.
Wow. What a difference that. Imagine if that didn't work out that way and you went there. That would have been, what a difference that would be.
Well, you had the coaching staff on. They would we had a great coaching staff. They would have
Yeah.
gotten someone else for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll see it. We don't have to know about that now. It's all in the history books now, as they say. So you guys come on campus and
So
you
hold on one second. Chuck.
go ahead.
Hold on a second. So Ed, truth be told, Gary and Dwayne really didn't put a lot of pressure on you to go to Villanova. You kind of had that from the coach.
Well, I mean, I was told by the coach of Providence I should make the decision to go to Villanova. The overriding factor was playing with this gentleman you have in front of you and my point guard, Gary McLain. I mean, I had my visit. I had a great visit. Stu Granger was my host, another fellow New Yorker, and
Great player.
Yeah. So I mean, those things made it an easier decision. I didn't have to go back for another visit. I just, everything kind of came around. After I was told I wasn't going to be able to play for the coach that was at Providence.
So there was a mixture of karma that brought you to Nova.
Yeah, I mean, that things like that happen in life. We all know
Right.
that. We've all experienced that, where
It's a great story, though.
just by happenstance, things happen. And I mean, the best man in my wedding, Wendell Walters, was a player who played at the University of Rhode Island. And we were really close in high school. And I figured, hey, he's at the University of Rhode Island. I'll be at Providence, not that far. We can hang out. But as it turned out, he ended up transferring from Rhode Island and went to Iona. So he went back home, to play. And as Chuck mentioned, the rest is in the history books, man. I'm so
things work out.
Yeah, it turned out perfect.
Yeah.
Not everybody wins a national championship when that happens, but that's a pretty nice ending.
Yeah, sure.
Not bad. Right. We sign up for it again too, Sonny.
I would.
So
I'd change my colors.
So you guys get on campus, all right, your freshman year, all right, and talk about the beginnings of the quote unquote expansion crew, Dwayne. I know that had to come from Gary, if I know you guys the way I think I do. So talk about how that whole thing started.
Well, just being, new on campus, how small the school is, and that year we felt we had a pretty good recruiting class to come in, and and we were boisterous and we were confident in our abilities, and of course, the John Pinones and the upperclassmen didn't take too kindly to that.
Right.
I'm talking about dunking on everybody, and John's like, nah, never. I'm knocking you out before that happens. So just amongst ourselves back in the room, man, we just figure what would connect us uniquely, the three of us together, and yeah, the expansion crew was formed. We had little cards made up and everything. Remember that, Ed?
But you guys have business cards?
Yeah, for a long time.
My God.
I mean, Gary and Dwayne were ahead of their time. I mean, we had these cards made up, and on the back of the cards were these little charts of where you could check off like the certain kind of dunk had on a particular teammate. I mean, these guys had everything drawn up and stuff. And I mean, you have all kinds of fun on campus as freshmen and sophomores, and that was part of it. I mean, who you could dunk on and sort of embarrass in practice and or games. I mean, they were both included.
Could you imagine if social media was around back then?
No, thank God, Sonny. Speaking as somebody who's been under a few of their dunks, I thank God there was no social media at that time, because now it's just a rumor that might have happened, Allegedly. That's a great word, Train. Yeah, thank you. I'm speaking from the guy who actually did that to me, so I appreciate the backup.
Well, you know what? I mean, we always had an opportunity. I mean, because the Sixers used to occasionally show up during the earlier parts of the season. Those guys would come, and I'll never forget the day Julius came to the field house to play, and I mean, he's, that him
Dr.
dunking in the open court. I mean, that really gave us great perspective on like what, great athlete was. I mean, when he was flying in there.
Yeah, that's true. He was something too, and he'd come down a lot. Those guys were down there quite often in preseason stuff.
Yeah, Dr. J lived in Villanova, Pennsylvania.
Right.
So his home was there. So he would come work out with us quite a bit. It was a pleasure to have him around.
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool.
So your freshman year, guys, you guys had a good team. I remember seeing you guys play at the Nassau Coliseum against Northeastern that year, right? And a triple overtime win that put you in, I believe, the Elite Eight by winning that game, right? Did you guys get to the Elite against North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, we went to the Elite Eight 3 times in our 4 years.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just getting at. Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first one against Calhoun was at Northeastern at the time. Calhoun.
Calhoun was coaching, right? I remember that. That was a hell of a game. With I think who was the player? It was Moss, right?
Perry Moss.
Perry Moss. Yeah, he was. That was something else, man. That's when I got amped up to want to go and play with you guys, because that was an exciting game. As a high school kid, that was pretty cool to see. So you guys get into the Elite Eight. And you come up against a guy named Jordan, right?
Yes, Perkins,
that whole thing. Yeah,
he had some help.
He had some help. Yeah, they had a squad, and they wind up winning. So you have a good season your first year. You get to the Elite Eight. Your second year, which I would tell you, and I think you guys would agree. I think your sophomore year, that team with John and Mike and Stu and you guys. And Prez and the rest of us that were on it. I think that team was probably better talent-wise than the 85 team. You and I have talked about it, Train. I mean, that team was and you get to the Elite Eight again. And we come against a buzzsaw in we got Phi Slamma Jammed in that game. I think we can all say that, fairly. And now that Ed's, in Houston, I'm sure he hears about that all the time. But those guys went nuts, and so you get to the Elite Eight twice. Junior year, it's an okay year. We get to the second round. Now you guys are going into your senior year. What's the thought process? What's the expectations like? You got close twice, and now we're starting my junior year, your senior year. What's the expectations? Did you guys talk about that, and did you guys discuss like this is what we want to do, or was it just business as usual and see where it happens?
No, if you remember, Chuck, the junior year, we lost to Illinois in the tournament.
Yep.
And after the game, we get back to Philadelphia, and Coach Mass is like, have your sneakers on in a half hour.
Right.
So we actually practiced.
I remember that.
2.5 hours, and we had no one to play against. Our season's over.
Right.
So we weren't happy with how that taste, left that taste in our mouth. Considering the 2 years prior to that, we went to the Elite Eight both times,
Right.
So, that Illinois loss was hard. And now we're seniors back on campus, and we want to take it as far as we could, But, that Illinois loss was very difficult, and particularly when our season's over. You think, you don't have to touch another basketball till later. And the time we get off the bus, Coach Massimino had us back in the gym working out. So that shows you his level of commitment, and we figure if we bought in, good things could happen.
What was your thought on that, Ed?
No, we had great leaders. I always talk about the guys who were on the team before myself and kind of led the way. Stu Granger, John Pinot, Mike Mulquin. We had some great walk-ons with that group as well too.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable players and people. They were great leaders, and I just remember the last game and what you mentioned, the game against that great Houston team with Elijah Wan and Larry Mishaw.
Wexler, yeah.
I remember the look on those guys' faces at the end of that game, how disappointed they were. And it was something that never left me and kind of motivated me just going forward. It's rare you get a chance to win your last game. I mean, that, of all the great things that have happened for myself at Villanova, I mean, we always talk about the last game because it ended on such a high note. And, to have that feeling is a great feeling. But I think the thing that motivated me the most was the coaching staff, and then the looks on the, at that time, our seniors, our leaders, the looks on their faces and how disappointed they were.
Did Coach get you guys together and at the start of your senior year and have a heart-to-heart with the three of you guys?
When didn't he?
Well, that's true.
If he couldn't get the three of us, and really there's a fourth in Brian Harrington.
Brian Harrington, right? Yeah.
If he couldn't get all of us together, he would take a visit to your room on campus. I mean, there were plenty of times where I'd get, and it's funny how that happens. Like, if you came to my room, I could tell the difference between your knock, Dwayne's knock, and Coach Max's knock. It was just like a different knock.
Yeah.
Or bang, really.
That's true.
Panagero, or any of the coaches. If they came to my room, I knew it was them. And that happened really often.
Really? They came to your dorm, they came to your room and just.
Oh yeah, barge in. Hey, what are you doing in here? I mean, as a junior, senior, think about that in college.
I can't even picture it. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
Come in your room.
They would do that.
Sit on your bed and have a conversation with you. Yeah.
Who's in there?
Wow.
Who's in there? Open up.
Yeah. Yeah, they're right. I mean, Sonny, it was like that. I mean, if he wanted to talk to you, he was going to find you. He knew where you were. So,
wow.
He got right after it. But with you guys, with your personalities versus those of Mike and John and Stu, you guys had a different way of leadership. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think that it developed over the course of time in your senior year where we were hitting on all cylinders, especially after that Pittsburgh game when we lost that game. That's when I noticed that things start to change in practice. And when we started getting ready, you guys got a little more serious about things. And I think you guys kind of felt that, and tell me, from where I sat, I think you guys felt like, okay, we're coming up to the end. We have to step it up.
Yeah, it's knowing that you don't have too many more left. We're seniors now, deep in the season. That last regular season game against Pitt was an embarrassment. Thank goodness we got to play them first in the Big East tournament to avenge that loss. But yeah, when it gets that late in the season as a senior, you don't have many left. And once you get into the NCAA tournament, to win it all, you got to win 6 games. So yeah, there was a different level of commitment once we got to the tournament. But towards the tail end of the season, particularly after that beatdown in Pittsburgh, yeah, we definitely locked in.
Did you ever have a thought that maybe we're not going to get in?
Never really crossed our minds. Coach Mass was worried about that. He was really worried about that because we're in a very competitive conference, as you know. I mean, Georgetown, St. John's filled that number 1, 2, 3 spot
all year.
Long.
Yeah.
So having competitive games with those guys, even though we lost 5 of our 10 losses were to the number 1 team in the country. Either St. John's was number 1 or Georgetown was number 1, and they would beat us in competitive games. Not so much St. John's; those really weren't competitive. They had our number, but we matched up differently with Georgetown, and those games were very competitive. So we were hoping that the committee took that in thought, and once we got in, we didn't care who we were playing, where we were going. We just were happy to get in.
I mean, 19 wins. You didn't remember 20 was supposed to be that number you had to hit. And
but
just
I mean,
a lot of things came together. I agree. But
think about it, Sonny. How many teams lose 5 games to the number 1 team in the country in a year?
No, I know that, but hey, look what happened to this year to the Big East. I mean, Seton Hall and some other teams didn't get any consideration for that.
Right. The
Johnny. So, you just never know. I don't know what they used to decide, right? But you're 100% right. I think the level of competition that you play day in, day out should help determine what you look like on a national level.
Well, yeah, in the tournament, Big East, back then, steel sharpened steel, so you're being tested every night. So yeah, I'm glad they let us in.
Sonny, one thing I want to know, you got to ask your boy this, because it's between him and Dwight Wilbur. Who started the meal money chant? That's what I want to know.
Oh,
Because I laughed today. We were chanting meal money, and I see all these NIL deals that get tossed about, and I just laughed to myself.
You know what? I think that started after the Pitt game when we were going to the Garden, because we got pretty good meal money for when going to New York
Who
City.
started that?
I think it was the third senior, Gary McLain, I believe, is the guy that started that.
1, 2, 3 meal money.
1, 2, 3 meal money, and no one believes us when we say that. I mean, that was
And how much was it? Well, how much?
I think in New York it was $50 a day
For
meals. Yeah. And,
so
and
you get
3 meals, $50.
yeah,
Big
50
East tournaments, 200,
yeah.
250. That's pretty good money.
Yeah, well, we got, I'll tell you, Dwayne, jump in here because you know what I'm gonna say. So we're riding the bus, Sonny, to the New York. And we got this manager, we called him, Coach Mass nicknamed him Googie, short for Gagoots, and he was a little bit of a pain in the neck, and he was that guy that just wanted to be a part of the thing and went to coach's office every day for weeks to try to get involved. He gets involved. Everybody's crashed out on a bus except me, Dwayne, and John Googie, And he says, "Oh, I'm really good at backgammon." And Dwayne just looks at me and I go, "Oh no, this is going to be bad." So
It's gonna get ugly.
So they're playing backgammon. He goes, "My grandpa taught me how to play this game." Remember this, Dwayne?
Yes,
So Dwayne's looking at me, goes, "Okay, I need double sixes." Boom, he rolls a double six. He moves it. I need a 4 and a 5. Boom, I need and John for 2 hours on the way to New York, they're playing for meal money, and John's envelope is empty. When we rolled up to the Essex house, John's envelope is empty. I said, "Hey, Grandpa, I don't know. Maybe got to go back to Grandpa." So Dwayne, being a gentleman, wouldn't leave him empty-handed. He peeled off 5 singles and gave him $5 to go get a burger.
Yeah, you can't leave him broke in New York City.
Can't leave him broke in New York City. But it was that kind of looseness. Like Coach Mass would let us be kids, So he would tell you, be back at 5 o'clock for film, say, and we'd walk around the city, and hang out or whatever. Or, in Lexington, we went to the horse farms and stuff. So, talk about Coach Mass's influence on you guys, and not only the tough love, but the other stuff, like I just said, like letting you be a kid, letting you listen. If you made a mistake, you had to pay the piper. There's no doubt about that. But at least he gave you the opportunity to screw up, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well,
I think we each had different experiences with Coach Massimino, because he certainly was all the things that people talk about, Daddy Mass, and how he treated us when we were away from the court. I mean, he was great that certainly that way. But when it came to basketball, I mean, we had some pretty stern talkings to in terms of everyday approach, because he was really intense. When the game started, I mean, there are all these pictures of him in the histrionics and how he used to kind of dance up and down the sidelines. I mean, it got pretty serious over there.
He got that hair going.
Yeah, I mean, he was, he used to get after you if you didn't do something.
He looked like a wizard.
He really, yeah, it was the truth. I mean, when he felt as though you were not achieving something, I mean, he would go crazy. I mean, we all had these signs in our locker room, and they were tied to what he thought you should accomplish in not only on the court, but in life. And I mean, he lived up to it. I mean, he would always remind you, that sign's in your locker room, zebra can't change its stripes. I mean, you better get your act. I mean, he was all over you. But you know, as Chuck mentioned, I mean, he was a great coach, great leader, and a great friend for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about getting into the NCAAs now, guys. We're not sure. We get all excited. We made it. They called our name out on TV, and oh, the bad news is we got to play Dayton on their home court. What were you guys thinking at that point?
Me, I was just happy to get in. And as far as our mentality, Chuck, playing in the Big East Conference, we didn't care who we played
Right.
against.
Right.
It made no difference. Because think about it. We're playing Syracuse during the season, Boston College, Georgetown. I mean, dude, we are battle tested, St.
Yeah.
John's. So we see Dayton at Dayton. We're like, okay. Coach
Yeah,
Mapp
right.
wasn't happy about it.
No, he wasn't.
You know, he called the committee, yeah, and he gave him a mouthful. But we as seniors, we're like Dayton at Dayton. Mitch went over the scouting report. Let's get it on. We were just happy to play another game because again, if you don't get in, that's your season, right?
That's it. Yeah. Yep. And that might have been one of the toughest ones we played in the whole run. I mean, that was right down to the end. I mean, Jensen curls around and makes a layup that hit every piece of the rim before it dropped.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
Chris picks that pass off at the end of the game, and that's it.
Yeah, they were tough on their home court. But again, the first game of any tournament like that, you're unsettled and you're nervous. And what was nice about it is Michigan played in that same venue, and they were
Yeah.
number one in our region. And they played Fairleigh Dickinson. My high school friend, Larry Hampton, played on that Fairleigh Dickinson team.
Yep.
Michigan beat them, And I remember Larry coming off the court. He had a very good game, and I said to Larry, "Don't worry about that. We'll get them. We'll get them next game." That's how confident I was against playing against any non-Big East team. We didn't care who you were. If you were not in our conference, we were going to bring it to you. And Michigan was talented, but very young. But that first game, Dayton at Dayton, that was the one that really could have gone any way. And Jensen, like you said, great move at the end there. We pulled it out. And once you got that one under our belts, we're like, okay, now it's time to play.
Yeah. I mean, the Michigan game to me was a good game too. They had a lot of, Tarpley and Gilbert and Peyton and some of those guys, right? They had really good players there. And
Butch Wade, Richard Relford.
Butch Wade, they had really good guys.
At the point guard. No,
Grant.
They were Big Ten champs. They won it, and they were the number one seed for a reason. They had a great season. But again, they weren't part of the Big East. And that was the difference.
I think you're right with that. I mean, that if you look at the teams that Georgetown played, when we played them in the final, we weren't afraid of the press. We knew what to expect. We've been down that road 3 times. That's the 3rd time that year. Somebody else that, that's not in the conference never played that. And now you're dealing with, length and size. And if you get past those guys, you got Patrick waiting for you in the back. It was almost impossible, And then after Michigan, we wound up with Lenny. So talk about that one, Ed. I mean, playing Lenny Bias and holding him to 8 points, you had a hell of a game, and you got help. I mean, we double teamed them and triple teamed them, but man, I mean, that has never ever been done before or since, right?
Well, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head when you talk about help, because he, God rest his soul, he would have been a great one and probably in the Hall of Fame if he had ever donned a Celtic uniform. But yeah, no, it was. I think when I look at today's tournament, and everybody fills out these brackets, right? We all do it.
Right.
The thing I always look at is the age of the players, just based off my experience. Because Dwayne talks about the confidence level of a senior, because I felt the same way. My last couple games, it didn't matter who I played against. They were going to have to really play their best in order to beat us. That's how I felt. And then when you feel as though you got like 15 other people thinking like that, I mean, that's tough to come around with. I look at this past year, and my man Jack Golke the guy who sent University of Kentucky home. I mean, this is a guy who's played 5-6 years in college. You're not beating that guy unless you come with your best.
Right.
It's his absolute last game in college. And, I think going through all those games, even against the great Lenny Bias, I just felt like he's great. He's really, really good. I mean, Adrian Branch, all the great players they had on that Maryland team. They're going to have to come with their best. I got a great coach. I got great teammates, and we're going to all play hard.
And if you remember, Ed, we played Maryland earlier that year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
but
I think he had 30 plus in that game.
Lenny Bias that we know, he showed up to that game.
Yeah,
he did.
He had 30.
That dude put on a show.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but at the same time, Harold Presley had an awful game at Maryland, and Harold redeemed himself in the tournament.
Oh yeah, Prez played great. I mean,
that Maryland game, he really played well.
Played great through the tournament.
Yeah.
Let alone playing against Lenny Bias. But no, that was you often think about great players and where they would have been. He would have absolutely been a great one.
Oh,
right
no
there
doubt.
with Jordan, without
Let me ask you a question. As seniors, because I think you bring up a good point. You talk about Harold Presley playing great, and other players that are playing maybe at or above their normal level. What do you guys do to instill in them the same feeling you have as seniors? A, the confidence, but B, the we ain't going home now mentality. How do you get that to those guys?
Well, I think it starts with Massimino. The confidence he instilled in us, in our abilities. He knew what we could do on the court, and it was our job to pass that down to the younger guys. When we first got to Villanova, we had no idea what was going on until Stu Granger, John Pannone, Mike Moquin walked us through it and showed us the way. So it definitely came from the coaching staff to the seniors, and the seniors would filter that down to the younger guys. And by the time we were seniors, Harold Presley was full on board, and that class, Chuck's class, and Dwight, those guys, they knew what was happening, and I think we led by example, and they followed, and that was great. But it all permeated from the coaching staff.
Yes, Sonny. So I had an opportunity to coach back at Villanova, and I would call the former assistants, Marty Marback at that time, my stint at Villanova, he was still in the area. So I would call him occasionally and I'd ask him for coaching notes on what he did with us. And he would have these well thought out practice plans and thoughts about the team. I mean, Massimino he was ahead of his time, man.
Yeah.
He really was. He had all these offensive notes from Massimino, and I mean, he would, he'd give them to me, and some of the stuff I could use, but I mean, we didn't, as players, we didn't get all of that, but everything we did from the practice plan to the leadership, how we were gonna, who he was gonna appoint as leaders, it was well thought out. And what he talked about every day in practice was playing in these kind of games. Like the most, Jay Wright talks about playing in the most difficult situations. I mean, Massimino did that every single day. I mean, every day for preparation.
Yeah, I agree. So now we all get to the Elite Eight again, right? And it's against somebody that you've been there against before, albeit without Michael Jordan and Worthy and those guys. But we're here against North Carolina again, and we come out and everybody's tight. So talk about that, Ed. I mean, coming out in that first half, and then what happened at halftime?
No, I think obviously you want something so bad, and you want to play, the best that you possibly can, and kind of in setting the stage. We're playing against North Carolina in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Right, right.
So, we don't actually have the entire crowd on our side as we, as underdogs, as we did in some of the previous games. But we weren't playing our best. And I'm going to allow you to go through this halftime speech because I botch it up all the time. I've been asked about it quite a bit, but
Sure.
Massimino goes through this Italian meal that he would prefer to have, and I'll let you and Dwayne finish the rest of it. I switch it up from time to time.
Go ahead, Trent.
No, we didn't play a good first half, and Coach Mass, we expect him to come in and just yell at us, just, tell us what we're doing wrong and why are we not, executing the way we went through in practice. And he comes in and we're all waiting for that. And instead he sits down, he's like, you know what I would rather have more than this game is a big plate of pasta.
Huh? We're down by 10. What are you talking about?
With clam sauce and a lot of cheese.
With clam sauce and a lot of cheese.
Cheese on it, yeah.
I'm like, what? I'm looking like this dude lost his mind. What's going on here? And coach is really thinking about it, and we're just looking at him like, is he going to talk basketball? But what he did right there was, it's like he took a pen and just popped, just let all the pressure out. And eventually he said, guys, just play basketball, play Villanova basketball. We know what to do, play Villanova basketball. So we were surprised that he didn't rip us a new one, first and foremost.
Right.
That was a shock. It's like, oh, he let us off easy.
Right.
And we come out the second half, and I think it ended up being a 12-point game or something. But yeah, the second half wasn't even close. Carolina didn't stand a chance. And again, they weren't from the Big East.
Yeah,
but looking at it now, just the fact that he said just go play basketball, that there's no mystique here, right? He's not saying, well, he wasn't afraid of the moment or afraid of the competition. He just said, guys, you got this, right? Like utter, complete, blind faith. And that's the word that Coach Lapis used.
Lap used that. Yep. Exactly. And I, like you say, I think he was just basically saying, go out and have fun. It's not that big a deal. Just go have fun and play the way you can play. And
also coupled with that, Chuck, think about it. We had been to that Elite Eight 3 times. That's our third time.
I know.
Right. So it was familiar ground. And he wanted to get over the hump, I'm sure. And he just told us, guys, we're here. Let's just play.
A lot of coaches would make that like, I can't keep this reputation. I keep getting on the doorstep. I keep being the bridesmaid. Like he didn't make that a deal. He just said, go play.
Go play. That's it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
He was really good at knowing how to motivate players, and no two players he motivated the same way,
Correct.
And I think that was part of the genius. That and the X's and O's. If you gave him a week to get ready for a game like we talked about with the coaching staff, we didn't lose. So it was one of those things. But so now, guys,
motivational trick I love the best from Coach Massimino. If we were as a group having a practice, I love the start over motivation. Start practice from the beginning. That was always a lot of fun.
Yeah. And it was always about an hour or so in where we have to go. Oh my God. Yeah, it was, and there was no rules back then about times and all that other stuff that they have to do.
As long as you sprinted to the cafeteria before dinner
Yeah, you get what's left. That's it. You had to get there quick, man. So we get back to campus and it's bedlam after the North Carolina game, and we're up on stage at Jake's gym. Talk about that, guys. How that was like, to me, I think it felt like there was more people in the gym than actually went to the school. It was packed, right?
It was packed. It was packed, man. But again, getting the Final Four, that was something we had dreamed about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because part of the recruiting trip to get me to go to Villanova, Rollie Massimino, they made a cassette tape of us winning the national championship, And I thought that was pretty unique, pretty nice. And to finally get to the Final Four after being in two Elite Eights, and again, we didn't care who we were going to play. We were just happy to be there.
Do you remember who that cassette tape was that you were playing on?
Ooh, good question. My mom still has the tape, Sonny. I'm gonna go.
Are you
dig that up.
serious? She does.
Yes, mom still has it. Yes, she does.
Wow.
I'm
So-
gonna go dig that up.
Ed, do you know who it was? 'Cause
I know
Chuck
who
does.
it was.
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who it was.
Albie
All right,
Oxenrider did it. Albie Oxenrider did the tape.
Yeah, Albie did it. Correct.
And he had Dwayne McClain, Ed, being the high scorer in the national championship game at Rupp Arena against the Georgetown Hoyas.
Was it
And
against Georgetown?
yes. And
And you won by-
he was the high scorer at the championship game in Rupp Arena, and the opponent was Georgetown.
And
So
you
there
won
you
by
go. And we won by 2, right?
Wow, Albie,
Yeah,
that's
so
my guy.
Albie was Nostradamus, I guess, with that.
Wow.
that's cool.
So now we're headed to Lexington, all right, and that was kind of surreal. I mean, sometimes I watched Jay in the last couple of championships that we had in 16 and 18. Those guys were locked in their room, the whole time. They saw the training room, the film room, the dining room, their bedroom, and the locker room. That's it. We were allowed to, I remember distinctly you and I, Dwayne, going over to the St. John's Hotel
to see
and
Ron.
hanging out with Ron Stewart from St.
That's
John's.
Right. That's right.
Because we're both friendly with Ron. And, Jay would never let those guys do that, but I think that kept us loose to some degree. I mean, I don't think anybody was wrapped up too tight, and he did things in the shoot around where we have 20,000 people watching us practice. RC wore Ed's jersey. I think Wyatt wore your jersey. You wore my jersey. I mean, it was weird stuff like that he did just to keep everybody like, what are they doing? So all of that, I think, and let us be, relaxed, and we went to play. And then, Memphis State. Did either of you guys think that was going to be an issue at all?
No. And the reason why, I guess, they had Keith Lee. They had some good players, William
Sure.
Bedford and Vince Askew and Andre Turner, who I ended up playing with in the CBA. But when we were checking into the hotel, I don't know if you recall this.
Yeah, I do.
Checking into the hotel, and Dana Kirk, the coach of Memphis, said to the lady at the front desk, "When Villanova loses, can we get their rooms?" And Howard Presley heard that.
Look at that.
Yeah, and Howard came back to us and told us, like, he said, "What?"
Yeah.
He actually said that when Villanova loses, can we have
need the rooms.
We need their rooms. So I mean, just the lack of respect for the Big East Conference. We're like, nah, that's not going to happen.
You didn't know that, Ed?
No, I laugh because this is we're talking about 40 years later.
Right.
Correct.
And Memphis has a great basketball tradition till this day. When I go to either watch Memphis play or watch the Rockets play in Memphis, people still remember us beating that particular team because that was their team they felt was going to go all the way. And even I've talked to Penny Hardaway about this game. I mean, he can recite certain things that happened in that game that I don't even remember. Penny Hardaway. So that
Certain things never go away.
Yeah, so that team meant a lot to Memphis. That was their team, and we just came in there, with a Big East mentality, and won that game. And Dwayne was right. I mean, that team, Keith Lee was a great player, man. He was unbelievable. Andre Turner, those guys were really good players, but that Big East Conference was a monster back then.
Yeah, and to have 3 teams, listen, it was at that time, it was only the 5th year of the conference, and they had 3 teams in the Final Four and already had a national champion the year before in Georgetown, which is pretty amazing to think about. They had back-to-back national champions in 84.
You just missed it 2 years before that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yep. So, all right. So here we go. So St. John's plays Georgetown. All right. Who are you rooting for, Dwayne?
Oh, dude. We had our pom-poms on for Georgetown and Patrick, man. I'm telling you. We did not want to see St. John's. No. Did not want to see St. John's.
Yeah.
And people thought we were crazy cheering for the #1 team in the country.
Right.
But just that we matched up a lot better with St. John's than we did. I mean, with Georgetown than we did St. John's. We won enough. I mean, St. John's beat us 3 times that year.
Yeah.
Walter Berry was just a nightmare. Chris would be contained, Bill Winnington would be contained, but Walter Berry would just, that
Yeah.
left-handed. He was the truth, boy. He was the truth, and he gave it to us. So we were happy as hell when Georgetown took them down for us.
Why do you think they had our number, Ed?
Because they were number 2 and not number 1. I think the mentality going into the game against the number 1 coach in the country, the number 1 team in the country, and the number 1 play in the country is totally different than going against the number 2 team in the country and the number 2 player in the country.
Right.
It's just a totally different mentality.
Yeah.
St. John's played with a precision that was beautiful. And then whenever they got into trouble, they threw it inside to Walter Berry and he made magic happen.
Yeah.
Mullen made the magic happen every time they played. It was a lot of fun to watch them play.
Yeah,
Playing against Georgetown was totally different. It was like going in the middle of the ocean, jumping off a boat and like the pressure they would exert during defensive stints when they played. I mean, they would just annihilate teams. And I always enjoyed watching them play. I had a teammate, Freddie Brown, who I played high school basketball with, who played on many of those great Georgetown teams.
Yeah.
He would tell me, like, you ought to see you think we play hard against you guys? You ought to see our practices. Our practices are unbelievable. And I'm just sitting watching them play and contrasting the way they play against St. John's. And I think that was really the difference. I mean, our preparation, our alertness, our approach to the game against Georgetown versus St. John's was completely different.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And speaking of the preparation for that game, for the Georgetown game, I remember in the parking lot that we put in a new press break where I think it was you, Dwayne, that stepped out and then they threw the ball into you and then we threw it. We went full across and then the wing guy stepped out, which we had never done that before prior to that, right?
Nope.
Well, how about in practice? We're playing St. John's. All right, we're doing our thing. We're playing against Georgetown. Massimino would put like 7 people on the. We play against 7 people.
Right. No, I was just going to say that.
The press is going to be like this hard, so it's 5 against 7 or 8. I mean, like, who does that?
Yeah. Well, it was great because you guys were getting bodies were coming from all over the place, just like it was when you had the 5 Georgetown guys on the court. And look what happened. The press really didn't phase us that much. We had 17 turnovers for the game, but they weren't all in the press. I mean,
we were lucky we had 17 turnovers.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I wish I had the stats in front of me against the teams that they played leading up to that particular game. I bet you the average margin of turnover was at least 20 to 25.
I agree.
It was incredibly
great. And I know the shooting percentage was probably in the 30s, high 30s, low 40s. It certainly wasn't high 70s, which was and listen, it's funny because I have the scouting report. I was looking at it yesterday, as a matter of fact. And they were going to stop. We wanted to stop them in transition, stop their transition. Well, there's no better way to stop transition than you make the basket, We got plenty of time to get back on D if you make the bucket, right? So
I mean, Georgetown was holding people at 38% shooting.
Yeah.
Well, the big thing that Mitch talked about was no lobs. You really didn't want to give up any lobs. You gave up 1 early and none after that to Patrick.
Well, he had 3 power dunks in a row. And that's when coach decided that Eddie needed a break and I had to go in after he power dunked 3 dunks in a row.
I was
So
about to say
yeah,
right before the half, that dude was putting on a at the rim.
yeah. He power dunked three balls and he goes, Chuck, go get Ed. Now you want me to go in. Okay.
I'm like, great.
And then they let us hold the ball, which I can't believe they did that. I was
Very
shocked that
uncharacteristic.
they did that. It's funny because the more we get to know these guys from that team and the Georgetown players, the more you get involved with what Thompson was thinking and what they were talking with Thompson. And they said, Reggie in particular, you were there at lunch with us, right, Dwayne? Reggie said he was nervous, right? And he had to drink milk at halftime to calm down. And he made listen, he made a couple of blunders when they tried to hold the ball. I don't recall them ever trying to hold the ball against anybody. They held the ball and had Billy on the top spot, Billy Martin, and had Horace on the bottom, and he threw it off Horace's foot. And that was a key turnover in the game because that wasn't long after that Jensen made the shot, and you know what happened.
I'm reading Thompson's book.
It's unbelievable, actually.
Book, and I haven't gotten through the entire thing, but just based on the early parts of his life, I mean, he was really chasing history. As a coach, as a former Celtic, so the nerves were probably warranted. I mean, they had won the championship just the year before. He's got, the best player of our generation on his team. So, I think they were chasing history a little bit, trying to win two back for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it was funny because you knew we had them a little bit rattled, when we kept putting, like I remember one shot you threw up, Ed. It was stuck against your body. You got fouled and you just flipped it up and it went in. And I was like, okay. Prez throws in a shot over his head with 2 hands. Okay. It was the cover of Sports Illustrated, I think, was the shot where you got jammed and then threw the thing up and it went in. I mean, anything that got to the rim went in, basically. I mean, how do you and we only won by 2, which tells you how good they are. Really, you think about that.
Yeah, it also, I mean, it talks about confidence level. God bless you, Dwight. The team had the ultimate confidence level. God bless you, Harold Jensen. I mean, these guys did not miss. They didn't miss shots. And, again, Dwayne hit on it a couple times. I mean, the confidence that Massimino gave you to go out there and really play at a high level. I mean, he was something he really did a good job instilling in all of us.
I think a lot of that came from Gary, too, having to be the floor general out there for that particular game. I mean, I know he felt the ultimate confidence because Mike Jackson was guarding him, and he felt that he could take Mike whenever he wanted to. I've heard him say that a million times, and he just, didn't waver, didn't bend, nothing. Just took care of business and did his job. And he really deserves a lot of the credit for that whole run because Mitch was talking about it the other day when we had them on, guys, and he said Gary averaged 38 minutes a game in those 6 games and had 7 turnovers for the entire tournament. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, he had a complete command of the offense.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't give him enough credit for dealing with that defense. I mean, it's something, people and players that ask about, that particular game. I always, mention how masterful he was in just handling the pressure and then getting us into offense. And I think someone has gone back and put a shot clock to that game because it's always mentioned, well, if there was a shot clock, you guys wouldn't have won. But in many instances, you got a shot off in enough time. Enough time. That was all Gary.
There was only a couple times I think that we actually held on to the ball and we got enough was the term that was used back then. And then, the coaches talked about this too. At the end of the game, the last, I don't know how many seconds or whatever, they did anything to keep the game going, including punching the ball up into the second tier. Patrick, I think, hit that thing about 20 rows deep, had to stop the clock. Because if the ball went in, we let them score the layup. The ball goes in, and the clock still runs back then. Now it stops, but the clock would still run, and they just punched it out. All we had to do was back off, and it would have been it. And then we had to go to the drama where we go to that 4 cross, and Dwayne falls down, he gets the ball, and that's the end of the game. So they did a lot of stuff late in the game to hang on to that.
Well, I mean, from their perspective, I'm sure they had a confidence level as well too. I'm sure they were going thinking, we beat this team 3 times already. Can we just get this game over with? And I'm sure they felt that way.
Yeah.
Again, great coach, great players. I mean, across the board, they were really stacked. So I'm sure, with a couple seconds left, they're probably looking at the clock saying, man, how in the world did this happen? How?
Right, but they're actually on a potential repeat champions.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, other than at that point, UCLA was probably the last time that was in the conversation.
Right. Well, Sonny, so Boeheim, I think Boeheim may have been the only person to pick us. Obviously than our parents, but I've seen video of him saying hey, Villanova's got a good chance. They could potentially win this game. I mean,
something? He called UConn last year earlier. He said this team has the tools, and the year before he said that's the team you really got to watch for. So he knows what the heck he's talking about.
Yeah, that's coming from a Hall of Famer. So
yeah, right. Exactly.
That's not an accident.
Yeah,
exactly. So, Train, we were just saying, falling on the ball at the end of the game, what are you thinking at that point? Obviously, you told Gents to throw you the ball, but other than that, what were you thinking at that point?
No, that was it. We had right at the timeout. I told Gents definitely get me the ball. I didn't realize that I was going to get tripped and fall. But at that time, I think I missed 1 foul shot the entire tournament.
I think you did, yeah.
The entire tournament, I think it was in the 26 or 27 or something like that from the line. So yeah, I said get me the ball, and I knew with 2 seconds left, once I got it, I wasn't getting up. I wasn't doing anything with it. My first, being cognizant of someone calling travel at that time. So as I made my move to stumble, I tripped over Dave Wingate, fell down, and he still threw me the ball. So I just held it, and, the rest is history.
And the rest is history. That's right. And I tell you what, I don't know about you guys, but I have never been moved to tears out of sheer joy at that time until that moment ever in my life. That was something that I wish I could put in a bottle and hold on to it for a rainy day kind of thing,
Chuck, I gotta ask these guys. Dwayne, do you remember going into the game? What was your biggest challenge, or what was your biggest okay, your assignment is X. What do you remember what it was?
Just me personally, because we played zone most of it, and just not letting them score from my side of the zone. In the zone, you're responsible for an area, not a man. So it made no difference who was over there. You just want to lock up your side of the zone. And if you notice the game, they started hitting shots on Harold's side of the zone. So I'm pissed off at Harold. I'm like, dude, come on. Reggie's hitting shots over there. Wingate's hitting shots over there. I'm like, oh, man, you're killing us. But yeah, it was just a confidence we had in each other. Yeah, we had to play them zone because of, the talent they had. And Massimino matched us up pretty well.
How about you, Ed, going into it, right? You got Patrick. They're going to be different strategies, doubles, drops. But, did you feel any added pressure?
No, just don't get embarrassed. I mean, because, we had gotten to that point, and everyone on campus, most people felt confident, but I don't think anybody thought we were going to beat this team. As the 8th seed, you're going to beat the #1 team in the country. You had a good run. You really did. You had a great run. So if you don't win this game, it's, all's not lost. And I was just kind of thinking like, look, hopefully we can go in and have a good game, because again, I mean, somebody needs to do a documentary on this team. That team was ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
They were so good. They were so good. And I mean, we all saw them on a, game by game basis. I mean, I live in Houston. So many Texans talk about Big Monday, Big East, Big Monday. Well, who were the teams that were featured on Big East Monday? Syracuse, Georgetown, and St. John's.
Right.
I mean, people from California. I took Stevie Thompson is a great Syracuse player. I talked to him the other day. I've never talked to him before. He's got a great player on his team, right? The first thing this guy says to me, he goes, listen, I just want to tell you, the reason I went to Syracuse is because of Big Monday. I watched you from California playing all these games. I mean, he's talking about this Big Monday and ESPN. That's what forced him to come east.
True story.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that team was amazing, and it was just I'm happy we won the game, but I have a lot of respect for the members of that team, their coach, and how they played.
Yeah.
You always seem to have a good game against Patrick, though, Ed. What about the differences between playing Patrick? What made it a good matchup for you? I mean, I remember, the game at the Palestra. You had a game and a half. When we down 5 with like 45 seconds, we win the game in regulation. There were games at the Cap Center. You always seem to have, and especially if you had like some kind of sickness, coughing, or whatever you had going on.
He played better sick.
What do you think that was about?
Well, first I was sick because I had to play against him. Secondly, I think there was a fear factor in playing against them. So if you had never played against them before, there was a fear factor, with their coach, the style of play that they played. But look at my teammates. I got a teammate that played with the guy, played against him in high school. My point guard played against him in high school.
Yeah.
My high school teammate plays with the guy. So the fear of playing against him was sort of wiped away. It really was. I mean, I kind of looked at him obviously as the top player in college basketball. That's what motivated me a lot. But what helped a lot was talks with Dwayne, talks with Gary, and talks with Fred Brown. I mean, they would talk about the kind of person he was and is still to this day and stuff. And that took a lot of the fear away.
What are some of your favorite memories, guys, from that run? The run to the championship and the aftermath, the parade, the president. What was some of your best memories that both of you had?
Well, just for me, the preparation leading up to the game, the trips on the group trips on the plane with the plane, traveling on the bus, taking the bus en route. I forget what route it was, but the back roads of the main line going from the airport back to Villanova, like those are the things that I remember the most. I mean, the games are a lot of fun, but it's like the team camaraderie that we all had together. That's the stuff that's kept us together all these years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a brotherhood. To be honest, what we did on the court, we did on the court. But yeah, the things that resonate are the relationships. You talked about playing backgammon with Googie on the bus.
Exactly.
Things like that. So even like before games in the locker room, some of the conversations we had as we're getting dressed and taped up and the rest of it. Not
Getting
so much
sprayed by Jake Nevin.
Not so much what we did on the court. That took care of itself. But those intimate times when we were walking in the shower to peep out Clint, or just doing our thing, man. It was it was special. Those relationships were special.
You know what's funny is you guys won a national championship. They called one of the greatest games ever, the biggest upset, Cinderella, all those things happening. And the kids I coach in high school, I tell them what you're saying right now. It's the memories, it's the relationships, it's the things that happen off the court that you'll carry with you. And this is living proof right here.
You know what it is, Sonny. It's
It's amazing.
you know, if you asked anybody on that team, if we had them all lined up here, they would all tell you exactly what Dwayne and Eddie just said. You know, nobody remembers it. You know, listen, we remember the score at a Georgetown game, okay, but other than that, there aren't too many scores that any of us know. But I could tell you what happened in the airport, you know, or I could tell you what happened on the bus or in the locker room, or you know, so that kind of stuff can, you know, the ball stops bouncing for everybody, but the locker room, I've always said this, the locker room doesn't have to stop. And I think even if we lost that game, I think this group of guys in particular was so close and so in sync with each other. Even to this day, we're all 60 plus now, okay? Even to this day, I could look at Dwayne or Ed and I know exactly what they're thinking if we're in a particular situation somewhere. You know, and it still happens. You know, I still see these guys on a regular basis, and it still happens every single day. So I think that's when you get 5 guys on the court in sync like that, and you get 5 guys in the zone, it's going to be tough to get beaten by anybody. And I think basically that's what happened that day, right, guys?
Yeah, you know, I think you know, Massimino
Yeah,
talks about being a family. It was that. It still is that today. You know, go after him. Steve Lapis kept that the idea of being a family, celebrated the team.
yep.
Jay Wright certainly did it. And look, we were on Villanova's campus, you know, weeks ago celebrating this very same game with Kyle Neptune.
Right.
Yeah.
So those guys
Yep.
keep that brotherhood alive. They celebrate it. You know, the players that all played for those coaches all respect the brotherhood and they keep it going. I know for you, Sonny and Chuck, you guys get a chance to watch the Knicks. You know, the brotherhood is alive and well there as well too. So it's, you know, it's something that's you know, I'm proud to be a part of, and you can't have this kind of closeness if everyone doesn't buy in, and the coaches don't buy in, and everyone has. I mean, everyone, all the coaches have,
Yeah.
as well as the players.
Well, I think with that, what a great way to wrap this thing up. And not to make you guys feel any older than we already do, but Coach Neptune was born in '85, just so you know.
Oh, God.
So there you go. What a great way to wrap it up, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking a trip with us down memory lane. 40 years old,
Yeah,
and
yeah, these
appreciate you both, man. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thanks,
Love you,
guys.
brother. Thanks.
All right, man. You've been listening to the Big East Rewind with Chuck Everson and Sonny Sparrow. The Big East Rewind is produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus and Daryl Gurney. Check us out on all things social media by putting Big East Rewind in the search bar, and on our website, www.bigeastrewind.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again. Have a great night.